What is up, difference makers? It is your favorite loan officer Mark, coming to you. I am so excited to be introducing a brand new topic for the entire month. I know every time I get a chance to hang out on Real Talk, it is always a pleasure. However, what we're talking about this time and what we're talking about this month is care. Do you care? Do you even know what care means? We're going to be breaking it all down. Welcome to Real Talk. Let's go.
Let's go is right. Thank you for that intro, Mark. That was awesome. And yes, this month we have a new business topic, and we are talking CARE, the acronym CARE, C-A-R-E. So we will get into that here in a bit. We will define it, and we will dive deeper into it. Before we do that, what I'd like to do really quick is introduce myself. I am Brian Poduska, owner of Real Property Management Focus, where we focus on your real estate investments. You are listening to Real Talk, and we have business topics of the month that we discuss. We go deep with our co-hosts. Today we have Kendra Strawn, and we have Mark, Loan Officer Mark, with us as co-hosts. They have one guest, I believe, today, so we will introduce that guest a little bit later. But we will be diving into the acronym CARE, C-A-R-E, communication, accessibility, responsiveness, engagement, foundational things that is in any business relationship, any client service sort of business. These things are foundational. So we will get into what it means to care and how that relates to your business and how you can improve upon that. Really quick, I want to talk about my company, Real Property Management. We are a full service real estate brokerage focusing on property management. We have some unique tools that other companies do not have. Wealth management, wealth optimizer is what our tool is called. It allows you to look at a potential investment property at many different angles, many different metrics. It's called Wealth Optimizer. We utilize that to help investors who are our sweet spot clientele, intentional investors who are looking at a property. We help them analyze that property. We can help them purchase it. Obviously, we manage it and then can sell it on the back end when you want to dispose of your property. So that is Real Property Management in a nutshell. But we are here to talk care, and we have two awesome co-hosts, as I mentioned before. So Lennon, if you could bring in Kendra and Mark. What's up, guys?
What is up?
Hey.
How you doing?
Man, I think we on the real estate side, I don't know what it is, but the month end in October and the last couple of weeks, I think being stretched thin, as we talked a little bit on the pre-air, I think that is a similar theme throughout the entire industry. But I don't know what it is. I finally feel some sun coming out. I've got energy again, so I'm ready to go.
Yep.
Awesome. Mark, you always have energy. I love your energy.
I got to bring it.
Although I see you don't have your fanny pack rocking today.
No.
And you still haven't shared a fanny pack with us either. We need one of those.
I got more. We just got our President's Club presents, and we got some like Jamaica green and red fanny packs. So I'm excited to bring them.
Cool.
Sweet. So you talk about being stretched thin. Obviously, we've had a crazy real estate year, especially in this area, Dallas-Fort Worth. I was kind of looking forward to the slow time between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I don't foresee that happening this year. I don't know about you guys.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
That's it. Me neither. What's a break?
Right.
I mean, in reality, I think I'm about to hit 8 years in. December has been my biggest month, at least 6 out of 8 years that I've been in.
Really?
And so both real estate and, I mean, homeowners needing help does not change whether it's the time of the year. I mean, we definitely have more buyers in the summer, and I think we're all taking a little bit of a sigh of relief that we've got a little bit fewer buyers out there at the moment. But at the same time, the market that we're in, it's unlike any other I've seen.
Yeah, that's the truth. That is definitely the truth. So with that being said, why don't we, Kendra, why don't we bring in your guests? So speaking of, being pulled in a bunch of different directions, I think this may help your situation with that. But why don't you bring on, or is she going to pop in the background? I don't know.
Yeah, she can pop in the background.
Okay.
So, cool. Yeah. So basically, oops, where am I? This way. So yes, I basically have been stretched thin probably over the summer. And most of us, anyone that's been in the real estate industry, and if you don't know, if you're just tuning in for the first time, I'm Kendra Strawn. I'm with Fair Texas Title, and I work with our Plano and our North Dallas office, and I help our lenders and our realtors and our property managers, just like the two gentlemen that are on with me today with Brian's show, that I help them with their business. I help them with their real estate agents. I help them and they help me. It's kind of a dual, relationship. But basically, our whole goal is to grow our business and to stay in front of our clients and to stay in front of prospects and to make sure that we're of value to our agents and our lenders. And we're all of us are very stretched thin in this industry because we never got a break. It kind of got busier and busier and busier and busier and busier. And now it's slowed down a little, and it's still not slowed down. It's just kind of doing the normal thing that it does in the fall, but it's still fast for the fall. But it's nice because like Mark, I can take a breath right now, and I feel like I can. But we luckily got to hire a friend of mine who we have been in the business together in business development at different locations before in different companies. And it just, somehow this is God thing and timing and just worked out great. And I now will have a true sales partner so that we will be able to meet the needs of all of our real estate agents and our prospective real estate agents and our lenders and their clients for both the Plano and North Dallas office. And it's Roseanne Weston. She came to us from Tarrant Roofing. So some of you may have seen her at an event with Tarrant Roofing, and she really has an amazing head for sales and just for meeting with the client and gets the whole thing that this is truly, it may be transactional, but without the relationship side of it, there's not going to be much of a transaction that's going to go on. The relationship side is really there. And so I think that this month, this theme of care is fantastic because I was looking at what that means. And I know that I'm going to let y'all explain that a little bit better, but that it's going to help me be a little bit more effective and efficient in meeting all of the acronyms for that. So that stands for. But I want to introduce Roseanne and let her say hello.
Hi there. How are you guys?
Great, Roseanne. How are you?
I've been a little bit better. We've been stretched very thin this week, and I'm losing my voice.
All right. Well, that's a sign of a good week if you have no voice left by the end of it.
Yes. Yes.
Well, welcome to the Fair Texas Title team. Pleasure to meet you. Kendra, good introduction, but if you wouldn't mind just maybe giving a little bit more background on yourself and how you ended up coming to Fair Texas.
Absolutely. Thank you for the warm welcome. So I've been, like Kendra said, with Tarrant Roofing for just about 3 years in the business development role. And my territory was all of Collin, all of Rockwall, all of Dallas, and a little bit of Ellis County. So I really got to know all of the real estate offices and am happy to have a much smaller territory and really drill down and service all the real estate offices in North Dallas and in Plano with Kendra.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So one of the larger roofing companies in the area, I'm guessing that means you're probably pretty well networked in. With roofing companies, title companies, you guys have to be really well plugged into networking groups. So, welcome to The Difference. So that's one of the things that we do here on The Difference is, allow business owners and entrepreneurs to come onto the show as guests and, introduce themselves, introduce their businesses, and then really join the ability to meet other individuals in the Difference Network. So welcome to the family officially.
Thank you.
And welcome to Fair Texas Title. So yeah, Kendra, I think we've got a closing set up for tomorrow. So
We do. I noticed that tomorrow morning. Yeah,
so
we do.
Yeah, when you talk about what Fair does, Fair does a great job. We know that we can, as an agent or as a lender, we can hand the ball off to the title company and really let you guys bring it across the goal line. To use my endless sports analogy here, because that's essentially, you guys do all the, again, pun intended, all the blocking and tackling, that after we as agents get a contract set up, and we rely on the loan officers and the title company to take care of that. So you guys do a great job, and welcome officially to the team.
Awesome.
We appreciate
Thank you
that.
so much.
Thanks.
Get ready to start solving problems.
That's right. Hopefully not many problems, but they always come up.
Honestly,
right?
what would life as an entrepreneur be without problems?
It'd be boring.
Like,
Suck, right? Yeah.
I've had so many conversations recently. People doing how do you do what you do? It's just wake up and solve the next problem and move on to the next one.
And in real estate, there's always a new issue.
Yeah.
It's like, we have 3 escrow officers between the 2 offices, and then 2 assistants that also can close. And they're always something new. And it's amazing. One of the guys has been in the business 30 years, and she's like, I see something new all the time. There's always a new issue, always a new question, always a new problem, always some new thing that's occurred. And it's just because we deal with people. It's all people-based. And so people love to complicate
And
life.
if we know anything about people, it's that they're irrational.
Really? Yeah, a little bit they are. They can be. So we try to bring the more rational side to it and and that was one thing. So both Roseanne and I were at Keller Williams' block party that was rescheduled at the Tory Music Factory. And so they met with they had 14 different offices that were showed there to meet and have a lot of speakers. And it was a good thing because they canceled it in August when the Delta variant had come back, and rescheduled it for November. And it was really good because it was very motivational for them, but it was also a way for us just to continue to show our support, but even to see some that we hadn't seen in the office, and those that we realized that we were still in tuned with and knew us, but hadn't used us in a while. And we were able to really hit home the fact that our whole goal is to have the finest closing experience in Texas. And that is our new motto. And it's going to be everywhere. But the reasoning behind that is we want that closing day, that signing of the paperwork, to be fun, to be chill, they can have wine, they can have beer, they can have sparkling cider. We have a cheese box for them. If it's one of our high-end, really luxury closings, we will even go a little bit, we'll up our game. Because if that closing goes really well, they're going to remember the agent and the lender who referred them to that closer. So our goal is to make y'all look good so that you also will continue to send us business. It's kind of like we want everything just to be very positive. And we know that in closings, there's always bumps and bruises and hills and mountains. There's always something that happens. We all know that. And no one's perfect. Things happen. But our goal is to be as good as we can and as perfect as we can, and to make y'all look good.
Well, and that's a good segue, because our acronym this month, or our business topic of the month, is our acronym CARE, C-A-R-E. Right. So to review what CARE stands for. All right. See ya.
Yeah.
What CARE stands for is communication, accessibility, responsiveness, and engagement. So
responsiveness, or is it reliability?
Responsiveness. Or, I mean, heck, reliability works.
I mean,
well.
yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't have those 4 components, you're not going to be reliable at all. That's what people miss out. They want to jump to the big word first, reliable. I'm reliable. Well, you got to have those basic components before you can be anything big and worthwhile. And people overlook the small
Reliability
stuff.
also implies that it's a continuous. You don't just prove reliability right now. It's
Right. But
you
if you're not
prove that you are
responsive, how can you
reliable.
be reliable?
Right. Yeah. So I like it, man. I mean, I think this is an incredible topic. I think communication from the very top, right? A lot of what we do and what we just talked about is that we have it. If we do not have the ability to communicate and provide certainty in the most uncertain of times, we can't succeed, right? And so at the end of the day, the ones that are winning, whether it's the Elon Musks of the world, whether it's the Jeff Bezos, whether it's the top agent in our market or your market, it's they have the ability to communicate. And I think that precedes anything else, right? So I think we should just start right there. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Before we do, and Brian, if you don't mind, I want to challenge each one of you to do something different. I got to thinking about this a little late today, and you don't have to, but I want to, when we do these shows and we have our topic, we always talk about who we are and how we do it, right? No one's going to say they do it terribly, right? Right? If you ask somebody, so here's what I want to see if we can do. I want to throw a twist into this, and I want you to approach this topic today based on what your expectations are of the people you work with or the people that you're buying from. How would you want them to show they care about you? How would you want them to communicate? How accessible would you want them to be? How responsive would you want them to be? And how engaged would you want them to be? And once we set those standards that we have, and we all have it based on who we hire, right? Then I want us to look at the end of the show and see if we're meeting the same standards for ourselves that we expect from someone else. Y'all willing to do that?
Yeah.
All right.
I am willing to fall on the sword when I have to, but I think at the end of the day, it's really how I've built my business, is really caring about the consumer experience. And at the end of the day, we're all consumers, right? And so for me, again, communication comes right off the top. Me as a consumer, I expect whoever I'm doing business with, whether it's a partner, whether it's a whatever it is, to communicate with me in the way that I want to be communicated with. If you can't tell, I am the resident millennial. Yeah, I like to text, right? So if me in my business, if I am not providing text updates and meeting the consumer where they are, which a lot of us are in a mobile world, then I'm not doing my part. So I think that is just like the first example that comes to mind. But I think whenever we have the Jeff Bezos focus on that consumer experience, I think at the end of the day, that's where we can really find the gold mine.
Yeah, and I like so number one, London. Yeah, I'll take you up on your challenge. Think about it a little bit different way and really look at it through the lens of what you expect from whatever service or product that you're purchasing. So I'll think about it through that lens. I do like I think it was in a text string that I saw this in, London. I think it might have come from you, but it was almost going backwards in the word or the acronym CARE. So starting with the E, the engagement. If you're not engaged, you can't be, the next letter backward is responsive, right? So if you're not engaged, you can't be responsive. If you're not responsive, how can you be accessible? And Mark, I like what you said is communication is almost like the surround or the glue that keeps it all together, if you will. And if you don't have the E, the R, the A, how the heck are you going to communicate well? So I kind of like to look at it that way, because if you're not engaged, that's almost like the trigger, right? You need to be engaged, or else you're not going to be able to do any of the other letters in the acronym.
Exactly.
And I think we can all tell, I mean, when somebody isn't engaged, right? When we're going about our day-to-day lives, I think it's something that, I mean, we quickly pick up, and it's that subconscious feeling of, yeah, they're not really there. And I mean, I'll be the first to admit it. I'm multitasking a majority of the day. And so I do my absolute best to avoid that feeling. But I think inevitably it happens. And I think it's something that is so important for any vertical that you're in, is to really be engaged in what you're doing at that time with that consumer, and understanding that as much as we think we can multitask, a lot of the time it ends up being that we're doing a lot of things in a crappy way.
Yeah, you're engaged, but only certain in too many things, and not many of them well. Speaking of engaged, I just saw Michael Copeland had a little shout out, so I'll give him some love down there. But yeah, that's a good point, Mark. Is especially in our fast paced environment that we work in the real estate world, especially this last year, we're talking about how thin we're all being pulled in a million different directions. How do you properly engage and give the proper amount of mind share, mindset, however you want to say it? How do you keep that engagement level high for all the folks and the clientele that you're serving?
Well, let me ask this: what is your standard, or what is your expectation of being communicated with? Is it 24 hours? Is it 48 hours? And for me, because I'm like everybody else, I mean, it's all of this is a work in progress, right? No one's ever going to perfect the care factor because we have our challenges. But what I will try to do is, it goes back to that being responsive, why I think that's so important. Because if I am overloaded that day, I at least want to acknowledge I got a text or a call. That I got your call, I got your text, I will get back with you. It may take me 48 hours, but I'm not ignoring you. And I think people appreciate that so much because they know that that ties into being accessible, right? If you don't respond, it appears that you're not, obviously not responsive, but you're not accessible. How do I reach you? I called you, I texted you, I sent you an email, I got nothing back. Are you really accessible? And so just a little quick text saying, got it, give me 48 hours. And I think most people, unless it's one of those, really hot fires that we all have sometimes. And I think that in those cases, we look at our priorities and we realize that this is something that's got to be addressed now. And we usually bump that to the top of the list. But I think just that acknowledgement that you reached out and needed a response is very important.
Yeah,
I think it comes down to like the actual word itself, right? At that point, it's care. And I think it's when we do care, we do make ourselves accessible. We do respond. We do create expectations. We do actually do our part to love and value like who we are working with and actually care, right? And it takes a certain level of care for you to actually prioritize somebody else's problems ahead of your own, right? And that's a lot of what it takes for us to be successful in any entrepreneur journey, is really being able to put others' needs ahead of yours, while at the same time giving yourself that time for you, so that way you can be the leader for the team, right?
It's a great way to put it, Mark. That was really good.
Yeah, and Lyndon, that's a good, going back to your point about the communication and just letting somebody know that, okay, I can't get to you right now, but I saw it, I acknowledge it, and I will set a timeline as to when I do get back to you. I had a leader of a group that I was part of years ago in corporate America, and basically he set the tone for the entire group up front. He had an introductory meeting. I'm so-and-so, here's my core beliefs. Here's one of my core beliefs is, if you get an email, this was really before texts were popular, so that I'm dating myself a bit here, Mr. Millennial Mark, but if you get an email, I have a policy that it will be replied to within 24 hours. And if it's not, he didn't say it's a fireable offense, but it's, it was basically that important to him that an email, again, not necessarily well thought out response, but at least a acknowledgement of, hey, I received your email, I'm working on it, or something to that effect. And that, that set the tone. It was, nowadays, maybe 24 hours isn't acceptable. Like you said, if it's a fire, then it's a fire, and you gotta address it right away. But I thought that was, it still sticks with me to this day that was his introductory, meeting to the group. And he said, my policy is a 24-hour email return.
I think that's a really good policy and a really good expectation to set, especially with somebody that you're bringing in to represent you, right? And at the end of the day, you've got to, again, care enough that you're setting these expectations. And I think that's been one of the challenges that I've been going through in scaling and really creating the systems and the processes for onboarding. And so now as much as I've provided so much emphasis on caring for the consumer, now it's really about keeping that and maintaining that while providing even more care and attention and attentiveness and responsibility for the team to really ensure that we grow and continue to raise the entire ship, right?
Yeah, yes. For sure. So, hey, real quick, I'd like to give our sponsors some love. So let's show some care for our sponsors. See what I did there?
Perfect.
So, Len, go ahead and put up. Okay, so we'll talk about Mr. Holberg first. Greg Holberg is the owner of Liberator Health Insurance, the best value and affordable health care. Greg has a deal of the week every week. This week, his deal of the week is just signed up a 54-year-old accountant and his 23-year-old daughter for great coverage for $570 per month. It is now open enrollment time, so this is kind of important. If you are looking at any of the government marketplace type programs, you'll know that $570 per month is probably half of what you would be paying for one of those programs that not only costs a lot more on a monthly basis, but also has oftentimes enormous deductibles, and a lot of Greg's programs do not. So what I encourage you to do, it is open enrollment time. Reach out to Greg. He can educate you and listen to what your needs are, and he's got a multitude of different programs that he has to offer. So reach out to Greg at 214-886-4688 or visit them at liberatorhealthinsurance.com. And then our other sponsor is Mr. Tom Rowe, owner of Wines with an Appeal. Wines with an Appeal is a company dedicated to assisting people fundraise for their favorite nonprofit organization. They offer a fun and educational program to entertain your donors and increase their wine knowledge that could potentially cost the fundraiser nothing. So you get to raise funds for your charity of choice, get educated on wine, drink a little bit of wine or a lot, however much you want. Get a little bit of entertainment from Tom. He's a pretty funny dude. And the wine that's available that Tom brings in is not necessarily what you're going to find on your grocery store shelves and or your liquor store shelves. So you get all that at potentially no cost to your fundraiser at all. All you have to do is cover the cost of Tom's wines, and everything beyond that goes to your charity of choice. And Tom has told me that he has not had one event that hasn't covered his costs. So essentially, you got a free program to raise funds for the charity of your choice. If you want to get a hold of Tom, send him an email at tom@wineswithanappeal.com or call him directly at 214-621-5216 for more information or to schedule your event.
Man, it's like he knows I'm like his target market, and that's why he advertises on here. I love that. That is such a great idea.
Yeah, it's a great program, and there's all kinds of partnership opportunities. I mean, he can come out to whatever location that you may want, or he has space that you can host an event at. So all kinds of different stuff, and it's fun. And I mean, hell, who doesn't like to drink wine, right? So call him up.
And Lord knows we all miss getting together. And I know we've had it here in the DFW, but for those listening outside of it, I know you need it. And when you do get it, it's going to be worth it. So community is a huge thing. And I think coming together for a good cause like that sounds like an awesome idea.
Especially with the holidays around the corner. So absolutely reach out to Tom at Wines with an Appeal. Yeah, Tom, just a quick aside, you mentioned COVID. He had done some online stuff, and he's got regulations that he has to follow about actually you can't necessarily send wine out, to do virtual testing. So if anybody's fired up to get back in person, certainly he is, and that business is. So support Tom, support your local charity that you want to raise funds for by using Wines with Appeal. Come on out. All right, let's get back on task here. What does it mean to care? So we've talked about the fundamentals, right? For those who may just be tuning in, CARE is the acronym that Lennon introduced to the difference, and we kind of use it as our foundation of service, right? So the C stands for communication, A stands for accessibility, R stands for responsiveness, and E stands for engagement. Guys, we're in a service-based business here. The real estate industry is service-based, essentially, right? So we have services that we offer to our clients. So, I came from a world where I was actually worked for a company that manufactured products and, hard goods and consumer goods. So CARE has a little bit different meaning there, but we are a service-based industry. Our jobs are service, right? So tell me about CARE and how you managed to do it in this. We were talking about such a busy environment this year and the last year and a half. Really, how do you manage to keep that CARE, front and center?
Man, I've got too many stories, all recent. The first one that comes to mind, we just pulled it off. We just closed today. In reality, I don't know that somebody else could have put it together and gotten it closed, but we maxed out our pre-approval. We actually went $5,000 over, and then we opened up an auto loan. And so we had to really go back to the drawing board, and it was an eventful experience. The buyer just gave birth. We got it all together. We pulled it off. It took a level of care from my underwriting team that was unmatched. I got a phone call at 9:30 p.m. on Friday night, and we got our heads together, got everything in the file that we needed to do, and we got our clear to close. And that is just one of the many recent examples, but I think it's the reason why I'm successful, the reason why the partners in my life are successful is that they exhibit a level of care that is above average, right? And when you get a group of people like that together, then teamwork does make the dream work, and things do get pulled off, and quote unquote miracles do happen literally every single week. And it takes a level of care that is up above average and above par.
It does. And I'm glad that this is our topic this month, because I think with how hectic it's been for the last 18 months, that this is something to take a step back and really look at, how we're responding. And I like also how Lyndon backed it out from the E to the C, and the explanation of how, and just like Brian said, you can't have this unless you've got this. And there are so many deals that have occurred that we've literally just, it's not that we pulled out the stops. It's just the fact that, we had one that we literally waived most of the fees on both sides of the escrow, which is title makes very little. We are like the last of the last that make anything off of the deal. We just don't. And that's okay. We're not supposed to. Our fees are set by the state. And then our other fees that are escrow that's just doing the docs are really low. Well, just to get it done, the deal done, we had to waive a lot of that. Both realtors had to kind of kick in some stuff here and there and all kinds of stuff just to get the deal done. And luckily, we actually, and the funny part was in the very beginning, it was almost like one agent was fighting against the other agent to basically still close it at ours. They just didn't realize that both of their regular escrow officers sit in offices next door to each other. And so it was like, guys, it's okay. It was funny. But it was just that I think it's like, for some reason, in a normal time, we always see bumps and weird contracts and weird closings. For some reason nowadays, we're just seeing a lot more of it. And
I've been talking to people about this. I've been talking to people about this for a long time, and you're exactly right. Like,
yeah,
the quality of all of our clientele has come down slightly, and it's created issues that we've all had. It's just they're all happening at the same time.
And I think what Mark's saying for quality of clients, the quality is as of that they have other issues that are going to make it harder to buy, sell, or close on their home.
There's more moving pieces.
Which
there's always.
They could be the most educated or whichever, doesn't matter. It's that for some reason in their deal, there's just a lot of moving parts and a lot of, say, liens or oh, well, we have 4 signers because the aunt and uncle co-signed on the loan. So then you've got to get all 4 people in to sell that home when it goes to sell. And there could be 2 of them that don't live in the country anymore. So it's all kinds of, there's just a lot more moving pieces to it. And so it just makes it a little bit more interesting. And it just forces us to really take a step back and really care to say, and to take a step back and go, okay, that's our role, is to help these people get through this trying situation in a positive manner. And that's why also we're really trying to make sure that at that closing table, it's just a really good event, because we don't know what took place getting there. And it just may have been a little tougher. And we even have like a little area set up in both of our offices for parents that bring in children to kind of go shop with a little bag, and they get crayons and a crayon book, and they get goodies that they can go eat. We're going to give them lots of sugar, and the parents are the one who has to take them home in an hour. That's not our problem, but it's just more or less just to show that, hey, we care about the fact that you had to bring your kiddos in. So here, let's help with that. Let's help make that a little easier for everyone.
Can the agents participate in that room too, Kendra?
Oh, yes. We have a lot of agents that participate in that room and go snack shopping all the time.
Yeah.
And then our regular agents, we even have.
I got a quick question. For all of you. You all are all in the real estate game. I was there at one point, and kudos to y'all for sticking it out. That's where I lost all my hair and the rest of it turned gray. There are so many people involved in a real estate transaction, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
A lot.
Help me understand how important it is for every one of them to be on the same page in the care game, right? If any one of those particular entities, companies, whatever it may be, is not accessible, what happens to the deal? Or it's difficult. Yeah, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen, or it takes a lot longer to happen, and it takes a lot of frustration.
What does that do to the brand of everybody involved?
It makes us work a little harder, and it can be frustrating because it can
makes
be
you work
thrown
harder,
off on us.
What does it do to your brand if you are struggling through self-created problems because of a lack of communication, a lack of accessibility, responsiveness, or engagement? How does that impact the brand of everybody involved to that particular client?
Yeah, negatively. I mean, certainly reflects poorly upon yourself if you're the cause of it. But yeah, if if I have, let's say a lender, for instance, right, and they're dragging their feet and not answering questions, the closing most likely is going to get delayed because funding isn't in place or it falls through.
Yep.
And yeah, it may not be my fault at all, but my client is going to look at me and be like, well, you didn't get the deal done.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not only does it make your own brand look bad, it certainly impacts everybody else who's involved in that transaction. And there's no hiding that, really, right? I mean,
no,
right.
You can't hide it.
Right.
Think about all the people that are involved in a transaction, all the way down to, if you need a survey or, any sort of small detail that if it's not done and that box isn't checked and the title company is the quarterback after that deal is handed over, the whole thing can blow up. And unfortunately, the title company oftentimes is the one, because they are the quarterback and the central guts of it. Easy to look bad, really difficult, especially in trying times and especially during challenging closings, really difficult to look good.
Yeah, it is, especially if you've got, say, a lender, which would not be Mark, that doesn't communicate, and or if you have a realtor that decides, no, I'm not going to give you the information of all the information that's necessary to communicate with everyone, and or you've got like a buyer seller decides they're not going to fill out this buyer seller sheet for us, and they don't realize what the requests that are being made is so that everyone can be communicated with, so that everyone knows the whole aspect of, once we get that executed contract, that we have received it, what the dates are, the critical dates are, also what our expectations are. And one real big point is don't ever wire funds unless you've actually talked to us over the phone and you've talked to the same one or two people and that you know them and they verified who they are and back and forth. And we have a certain way we go about it. And unfortunately, in our world, things are hacked a lot. And there's a lot of people we are constantly seeing wire fraud that happens. And so that's a big deal, is don't ever give anybody wire instructions in a certain manner. And we go over that before, during that month, and we will repetitively go over it. And it's just a matter of realizing that's the biggest key to here is the communication. It is truly communication. And it can be frustrating if you have one cog that's not doing it and not communicating in a timely manner. It can totally throw it off, and it can stop closing for 4 days, 5 days, 10 days, whatever. And then you got angry buyers and sellers.
So let me ask this: everybody knows what Murphy's Law is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes. If something can't, is real estate not the epitome of Murphy's Law?
It is.
Really. And
Yep.
so how does having that team together, and I know all three of you very well, so I feel really proud to be able to have this conversation with y'all. But how important is it to have that team together, that everybody shares that same core value of caring? Because when it goes wrong, that communication, that accessibility, that everybody jumping in and put the fire out, and then communicating the bad news / good news. Bad news is, here it is. Good news is we got it fixed to the client. That does so much to boost and grow your brand. Don't you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Immensely. Yeah. It's critical to have a team that you can trust and that you can call at, 10, 11 o'clock at night if something's going south. It's invaluable. It's if you're on an island all by yourself and you don't have teammates that are pulling in the same direction, it's immensely more difficult to get something done, especially if something goes south. Like you said, Murphy's Law, something's going to happen. It always does. Right.
Yep.
I love what Mark said earlier about, because we all face our professional challenges every day, but we got our personal challenges that we have to battle every day as well. Whether it's a flat tire issue or whatever it may be. But, with Mark saying that you put your personal issues aside to take care of the client, to take care of the situation. Being in mortgage back when that was my most frustrating part of being in the real estate game, is when I needed someone not being able to get that accessibility and be able to get that communication, only to find out that they were having a bad day. Well, now your bad day just became a bad day for everybody else.
Well, I think that's super. I mean, you're hitting on a huge point that I talk about with everybody. And I mean, I'm blessed to be able to say at this point, although I work 12, 14-hour days, it is a requirement for me to like and respect and have professionals that I'm working with. And if I don't have that, I am a referral-based business. And everybody that I do work with is a reflection of me and my team and what we stand for. And if it goes against what we stand for, then I simply won't stand for it, right? And so I think inevitably Murphy's Law hits, and it's something that we all need to be able to really have respect for each other and have the courtesy and grace in how we actually communicate, because people are having bad days and they could very, very reasonably be having a bad day, but you approaching them with care and love and you actually being there for them, you doing that will end up brightening up their day. That day will brighten up others, but at the same time, you'll be able to get accomplished what you need to accomplish, right? Mm-hmm. And so absolutely. I think whenever there is a Murphy's Law and something happens, right, which there's hundreds of things that can happen and they do, we need to be able to come together, not start pulling each other apart. I think a lot of that comes down to really having the security financially to where the transaction is a relationship and a family that you're serving, not a commission, right? I think it's when we start thinking of it as a commission that we go, why isn't this done?
That's true.
Yeah, I think that's some real talk for you.
Mm-hmm. That was good. Mark's on fire today.
This is just, I mean, the things that we've had go on, I mean, yeah, I have a seller on a deathbed right now. Uh-oh. We're waiting on funds from California. We have been for a week. We had a buyer cancel at closing because the seller didn't move up closing. They actually delayed closing. And the day of closing, our buyer's dream house came back on the market. Ooh. I mean, the things that we've had going on, like without a smile on my face and without enjoying the people that I'm working with, I'd be a miserable human. I was talking with my barber the other day and he was like, man, you're always smiling. It's like, man, born a refugee, like I was born with nothing. I see everything I could ever want and need in my world. Like, why wouldn't I be smiling? Why wouldn't I be a joy to others? And it's just as simple as that for me, right?
Yeah, you've got a unique perspective, given your history, Marks, and that's pretty cool. And it's, you put yourself in other people's situations. Lennon asked us to do that up front, and that's a great perspective to have, because you're right. I mean, same thing, whether it's title, property management, lending, I deal with all kinds of different personalities and all kinds of different people that have bad days, right? And so I sometimes I feel like I'm a psychologist at certain times, because you're playing middleman to owners and tenants, and so it can be interesting. I won't share any horror stories, but yeah, there's all kinds of different and fun topics that you really have to have that perspective, right? That to take a step back approach and think about, is this really life or death? It's real estate. It's not life or death. We don't have somebody on a surgeon table that Now, a deal may not get done, but nobody's necessarily going to die over it, except for maybe your California client. I kid.
He unfortunately will, but he lived a full life, I can tell. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think whenever we are all in our own bubble, right? But at the end of the day, when we have to facilitate real estate transactions, got all of these bubbles coming together. And again, I mean, we can't expect rationality, right? Like, this is the most uncertain time of our clients' lives. And so we have to have a level of care to really be able to do what we do, or else all of everybody's problems really become your problems. And as much as like I can solve other people's problems all day, I'm not going to allow them to like become my problems, right? And so I think as much as we need to care for our clients and for our partners, I think we need to care for ourselves, right? And I think so many of us have thrown that to the wayside, and a lot of the times at our own peril. And so I think we've got to be able to allow ourselves to have the bad days. We've got to allow ourselves to not have the energy one day, and to be able to forgive yourself and care enough to really come back and fight another day. Because
Mark,
if you won't, you're not going to make it long.
Mark, let me ask you a question. I love that you're saying that, and I'm going to use Brian's football analogy on that. Obviously, me being around football for so many years, and they talk about team chemistry, right? You got to have that team chemistry, and I can assure you that not every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, whatever day you may be playing on, you're going to be at your best, and you have those teammates to pick you up when you're down. I think where we struggle in a professional world right now is not finding that core group of people that we share the core values with, so that we do have someone to have our back and to pick us up when things aren't always going our way, to be able to call Brian Poduska and say, hey, buddy, I'm struggling today. I can't get this done, but, we're working on this project. Could you help me out just a little bit? And Brian be able to pick that up, and then me be able to return that favor when he has those same challenges. And when we start putting these teams together of professionals, it doesn't necessarily have to be in our same industry a lot of times, but we just make these connections and we build this community of people that have the care factor, but they also have the core values, and we are there for each other. It allows us then to take care of ourselves, Mark. And I think what we're doing is we're pursuing sometimes the wrong people and the wrong group of people, and everybody's out for themselves, and you don't have time to take care of yourself because you're struggling just to make the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's deep, man. But at the end of the day, there's a level of personal responsibility to this, right? Again, the way that I see it, like if I'm working 14 hours a day, if I spend the whole weekend working like I did this past weekend, I better enjoy the people I'm working with. And that's on me, right? I need to be able to manifest those people and bring them into my life. And I need to go out there and continue to expand my reach and be able to really attract the people that I envision as my partners to me. And I think a lot of the time it's really just that we get comfortable. And London, you know how I feel about comfort zones. And I think it becomes easy because at the end of the day, we've got just so much coming at us. And it's like the amount of flow of both information and drama and everything, it's all overwhelming. And so I think at the end of the day, we've got to be able to cut through that in order to do what we need to do professionally, but personally and spiritually, and for your family, like you've got to be able to create the time and care enough to actually be there for them, right? Because we can be great at our job, but if you don't have a personal life and you are doing it at the peril of the other things in your life, like what good is that?
Well, that's the whole basis around being relational versus just transactional. So you're absolutely right. Mark, you talked about the comfort zones, and I know how much you hate them. And I used to have this little plaque on my desk that said, "Success is a journey, not a destination." And I think that destination for so many people is their comfort zone. They feel like that if I get here, everything's going to flow the way it should. I'm going to get rich because I did all the work before, and that's just not it. That's it. It is the journey. It's a never ending journey with all kind of obstacles and roadblocks and challenges every day.
I think that's why I love the Matthew McConaughey of like, who is your hero? And it's me from 10 years from now, because it's the things that we go through, everything that we've gone through this year is going to make us better for it, right? As long as we actually take away the things that we were meant to take away from it. And at the end of the day, I mean, adversity breeds character. And
Yes,
I mean, you've got to, character plays a lot into the relationship and wanting to build it in the first place. And so I think it all starts to kind of, the pieces start to add together. And I think that's kind of the beauty of this show, is we kind of take the pieces and now we're painting this picture for not just the real estate professionals, but for any professional, because it all comes together.
I like the parts of this show that when we have these discussions like this, where I don't feel like we're preaching or teaching to anyone. It feels like we're all self-learning right here. We're just sharing our thoughts and our experiences. And I think each one of us, knowing all three of you as good as I do, it's not like we're trying to tell everybody how great we are at carrying or anything like that. We're having discussions on what's important to us and how can we be better and more self-aware. And that's why I love doing all these shows with you guys, because I always come away from every show with a better understanding of who I am and who I need to be.
Agreed. I agree. And I love the takeaways that we get from the shows, because Mark, you put it really well. You know, sometimes your life gets out of balance and you're not caring for yourself, right? Or you're not doing the things that really support your why. And you know, I'm guilty of it, certainly, especially as this year has unfolded. It's been crazy. And I have a feeling we're up for a lot more roller coasters going forward. So that perspective is great. And it's something that we all have to kind of take a step back and think about. So, yeah, thanks.
Well, I think, and as you do that, I think you need to you need to be able to forgive yourself, right? Because it's not easy. And at the same time, it's not possible for you to be perfect at every stage and everything that you need to do. But you need to be able to take a moment and reinvent yourself and really give yourself that energy to go into whatever you're lacking in at that time, right? And I think it's the people that really do that they are able to be at the forefront and at the pinnacle of their career and whatever they're doing. And it's because they're taking the time to really make sure that they're not just an incredible professional, that they have the wherewithal to really feed into the rest of the aspects that make us a human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I want to give a shout out to Dominguez. I saw he popped in and said hello. So Josh Dominguez, my favorite Dodger fan out there. What's up? There he is.
Hey, Josh.
But hey, guys, we are up against it. I mean, time flies when we're having fun and getting deep on topics. So thank you guys for your time today, and thanks for all the insightful, thought-provoking, topical information. Kendra, Mark, I appreciate you guys being co-hosts. Way to kick off our new business topic, care for the month. I think this is going to be a good one, and I look forward to further discussion on it. Kendra, thanks for introducing your partner. Look forward to working with her in the future. Thank you to our sponsors, Wines with an Appeal and Liberator Health Insurance. Appreciate all you guys do for the show. And Lyndon, thank you for everything that you do behind the scenes. I haven't seen your face here today on screen, but we enjoy your voice and your insight and everything that you do for the difference and for Real Talk. So thank you for that. Until next week, guys, we'll be back here 2 p.m. Thursday live talking more care. But until then, have yourselves a wonderful weekend. I think it's supposed to warm up around here, so I'm going to enjoy it. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.